This is The Bottom Line. The Bottom Line on 938 Live.
Casino resorts are popping up all over Asia, emulating Singapore's success with the integrated resorts at Marina Bay and Sentosa. This month, Japan began parliamentary proceedings to legalise casino gambling. Earlier this year, South Korea approved the construction of its first foreign-owned casino resort, and the Philippines and Vietnam have launched their own integrated resorts in the past 2 years. Singapore is currently the second biggest casino market in Asia after juggernaut Macau. The two casinos in Singapore made about $6 billion in revenue annually for the last 3 years. And 938 Live's Travis Teo spoke to Vicky Melbourne, gaming analyst at Fitch Ratings, and started off by asking if Singapore is feeling the heat.
Yeah, absolutely right. There's a number of other regions who have looked at the Singapore model and obviously have been attracted to what the Singapore government has been able to achieve. And our sort of view is what's driving the integrated resorts in Singapore is the international tourist base. So, the biggest challenge will come from, North Australian markets and what's happening, should Japan legalise casinos, market share from there and also the Philippines. So I think there is the competitive threats out there that could potentially impact that $6 billion figure.
Right, Vicky, do you have a forecast for this year? Do you expect it to be below $6 billion?
No, I think this year we see a little bit of growth. I think we're forecasting at about low single-digit sort of growth in the Singapore market.
Right. On the topic of new licenses, I understand that in 2017, that's when the market could be opened up further. Is there any chance of that,
We don't think so. No, certainly not at this stage. The Singapore government is high visibility around problem gambling, high restrictions in terms of the domestic visitors entering and playing in the casinos. Based on just their focus on problem gambling, I think there's sort of a low probability for additional licenses in Singapore.
Right, Vicky. So from the perspective of the businesses, Marina Bay Sands and Resorts World Sentosa, how do you think they can continue to stay ahead of the game, I think it'll be a two-pronged approach. Obviously, the Singapore government will be very focused in terms of driving those tourist numbers to Singapore. But then again, it will be up to, I believe, the individual operators to ensure that they've got quality assets. The likes of Resorts World Sentosa, obviously their overall branding and venues to ensure that players continue to come back and visit their facilities. As does MBS, they have sort of similar sort of loyalty sort of programs. So, you expect the operators to step up their marketing around those perspectives. Now, Japan has begun their parliamentary proceedings on legalizing casino gambling. So how do you think that will affect casinos within Asia?
We still think there's a 50-50 chance of them actually legalising gambling, but the interesting thing is that there's been more support for legalising gambling this time around than there ever has been in the past. Whilst there is a lot of momentum around legalising gambling, there's still a lot of hurdles to go.
Will it draw the gamblers away from the other resorts from Asia?
Yeah, and I think the sort of biggest impact it will have will be in any potential opening of markets in Korea and Taiwan. I mean, together they represent sort of 45 of Japan's visitation. So I think they're going to be the two biggest markets that will be impacted.
Right, and you said a 50-50 chance of them legalizing gambling. So what are some of the hurdles specifically?
There's obviously a lot of support, and there's been a lot of lobbying from the various parties, but they still have a challenge from a regulatory perspective in terms of getting the bill through and then actually implementing that bill as well.
And that was Vicky Melbourne, gaming analyst at Fitch Ratings, speaking to Travis Teo on The Bottom Line.